January is going to be. But these just came as a great opportunity, we thought, to support people that were trying to apply for the youth development grant for the trust, because we're both very knowledgeable of the process and the content and all of the things, and we really want to support organizations like with high quality programs to get the funding. So very, very excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so just to kick us off, we are real nerds, so I hope you enjoy this. Oh, my music's not playing. But this is even funnier, I feel like. So you might notice a theme throughout today's session with our mini GIFs. Here we go. Anybody Star Wars fan besides me? Yeah? Alrighty, guys. So yeah, that's our little Star Wars crawl, just to get us started. Okay, so just a little housekeeping as we get started. So throughout the session today, we're going to have plenty of opportunities for Q&A, but just to keep down on the background noise, please mute yourself. You should have been muted upon arrival. I see Yvonne just joined us as well, so feel free to write questions down and utilize the chat option. We'll be monitoring the chat, but we'll be constantly stopping for Q&A, so feel free to hold your questions and just raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have a question. So we want you to use this time intentionally so that you can build your applications very thoughtfully and meticulously, because it does require quite a bit of planning and effort for your applications to get done to the highest quality. So please just utilize this time as much as you can. Try to safeguard it, because innately, you guys are all busy individuals, but we did intentionally build this every week so that you'd have some intentional time to work on your application and all the planning that goes into it. So please just, stay engaged for all of our sessions is what we ask, and participate, because the more you participate, the better off you get, I think, content-wise. And also, for those who already have signed contracts, you should already have access to the members only page, which we'll show you in a bit. And we'll be recording every one of these sessions and putting them on the members only section. Again, we'll have a number of resources on there, and we'll show you a little bit of what those look like. So if you want to, Mapi?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was texting one of the other attendants. Okay, so by the end of the session today, our goal is that you will understand the structure of the bootcamp. We want to have like an overview of everything that we're going to be doing together, and we want you to be very comfortable with the structure that we are, suggesting that we follow, as well as, the resources and the materials and the access that you're going to get to the content that we are providing. We also we are unveiling today, which we're very, very, very excited today, our grant strategy planning template. It's actually a very comprehensive document that we put together to help you do exactly that, plan for the grant strategy process that you're going to be going through. So our goal is for you to leave today with a very clear understanding of what that template does, how it works, and then you can start using it. We also want you to leave today with a very good understanding of the eligibility requirements from the Children's Trust, ensuring that your organization is in fact eligible for the funding, and also understanding the importance of identifying partnerships. That's one of the things that the trust emphasizes. It's something also that I think independently of the grant can strengthen your program. And so we really want to pay attention to building those partnerships from the beginning, right? Like those take time. So that's something that we definitely wanted to address today. And we also, of course, want you to identify where do you have gaps in your partnerships and how you can start identifying potential partners and engaging with them. And may the force be with you, obviously.
Awesome.
So today we are going to start with introductions. I don't think everybody that was going to join is here, but we'll start with who's here. Just getting a sense of who's in the room and how we are, working together. Then we're going to go through the bootcamp overview. As I said, we want you to understand like really, really well how we are going to go about this bootcamp. Then we're going to dive into pre-planning. We're going to show you the Children's Trust website and make sure that you know how to navigate that. As I was saying, we're also going to go over partnerships and the grant strategy planning tool. And then we also wanted to give you a glimpse of what we have already heard from the Trust with regards to the what they're planning for the RFP. I'm sure many of you went to the webinar that the Trust already put together, but we wanted to make sure that, those key messages have gotten through. And then we're going to leave some time for Q&A.
Perfect. All righty. So just to kick it off, we had a few people join us while we were going over the agenda and intro. So just to start off, we wanted to do quick intros with your name, organization, and what impact has after school or summer camp had on you personally. So I'll kick it off and I'll say, my name is Anna Delernia. I'm co-facilitating today's workshop and I'm the CEO of Level Up Impact Group. Personally, I have benefited greatly from out of school time programs. Like I'm the youngest of 7 kids. I grew up without a lot of resources, poverty, food stamps, free clinics, like that was my life. And if it wasn't for the after school programs that I attended, I, wouldn't have gone to college. I definitely would not have been able to. I submitted every single one of my college essays in my NJROTC after school program on their computers. So those are some of the things that directly impacted me as an individual, including in high school, going on college tours. I got to actually travel to the University of Florida when I was a 9th grader in high school through a different club, an after school program I was part of. And that inspired me to be like, that's my dream school. And I spent the rest of high school being like, I want to go to University of Florida. Spoiler alert, I got in and graduated, and I was first generation college student. So that's the impact it's had to me. And all the programs like yours are exactly why I do this work, because I see the power of it. So who wants to go next? Do pop in, or I'll go alphabetical.
I'll go because my experience and why I do this work is because I did not have any after school programs. And as a result, I stepped in junk a lot growing up. So to avoid those pitfalls, I've always known how important the after school space is, and especially for girls. So I'm Virginia Carr, founder of Girls Inc. Greater Miami, and that's what we do, after school programs just for girls, because I know how important that space is.
Awesome. Thanks, Virginia. Anybody else wants to go?
I'll go. It's so funny. This question is great, and I'll explain why. Well, my name is Angela Gonzalez. I am the client services coordinator for Be Strong International, a nonprofit located here in Miami-Dade. And the impact that after school or summer camp has had on me. Well, funnily enough, as a young kid, a young girl, elementary, middle, I had severe social anxiety. I could not look at you in the eye. I could not hold up a conversation with somebody I deemed scary. It was bad. So I actually hated after school, going to after school. I was like, Mom, pick me up at 3 o'clock on the dot. I can't go. No. However, my mom started a business, and I had to understand that I can't be asking that of my parents. You have to pick me up when I want. No, it's pick me up when they can. So I had to go to an after school program. And during the summers, I had to go to summer camp because my parents were working. And that in those programs, there was different sports that they did. There was different just things that they taught you, music, all that stuff. That stuff kind of healed my severe social anxiety. I was able to speak to other people with no problem. I was able to find a few of my passions that I have now because of those programs. So I thought that was a really interesting question.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Of course.
Judith, would you like to share?
Hi, I'm Judith Milian. I'm the owner of World Children's Academy. Unfortunately, I didn't go to any after-school program here. I was raised in Cuba. So when I came, it was in high school. So I kind of didn't need that after school. But
Yeah, I mean, the way that, I'm sorry, I'm Yolanda Garcelle,
she's,
and I'm the principal of World Children's Academy. And what we were talking about is that our appreciation for a summer program and after school program is that we're able to help the community. We're able to help our school population. We were both blessed with the opportunity to go home and have our parents torture us with having to do chores and all of that. But now we're able to support our students with additional tutoring, additional practices, additional support that they may need in the actual classrooms. So for both of us, it's a gratitude that we're able to provide.
Yeah. Awesome. Yvonne, would you want to share?
Sure. Okay, Yvonne Sawyer, founder and president of Hope for Miami. We actually have been a provider of after-school services for a few years now. I was not one of those who had the opportunity to attend after school either, because we had a stay-at-home mom and a whole bunch of kids, and we just came home after school. So I'm delighted to be able to provide this to kids in our community. And see the looks on their faces when they have a chance to socialize. I mean, I know so many kids during the pandemic in particular, when they got a chance to come back and be with their friends, they sometimes tell their mom, don't pick me up early. I want to stay with my friends. That's the kind of atmosphere that we like to engender in the kids we serve. So thank you.
Wonderful. Mapi, do you want to share?
Sure. So similarly to Judith, I grew up in Colombia. I did all of my, schooling in Colombia. And it's a very, very different model. We actually stay in school until like 3:30, 4 p.m. And then you just go home. So I didn't really have the experience. I do know that, because most middle-class people in Colombia go to private school, you do have opportunities for like enrichment activities. And there was always something around, sports or arts that was happening. And to be honest, those I think were the experiences and the opportunities that really shaped a lot of like, my social emotional skills and the way that I interact and a lot of the passions that I developed came from that. So I do see the value of enriching activities, and I think that's a great opportunity that after school and summer programs have with kids. And so I'm very excited about everything that you do and that you're gonna, even enhance through this process now.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for sharing. And I think, it's totally relevant, whether you've attended or provided, like it's all having amazing impacts on kids and parents. I was kind of surprised nobody mentioned like having their, having their kids go to after school or summer camp too. So, but yeah, lots of impact across the board.
Well, I do want to mention that because, like I take my, obviously, like I have two little girls and I've been taking them to summer camp ever since they will accept them. I've been sending them. And it is unfortunate to see how expensive summer camps, like high quality summer camps are. And to see how many families just don't have that opportunity. So that's something that I also feel very passionate about.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. So we are gonna dive into our schedule. You've seen these dates before. We've been promoting them everywhere, but basically we have 3 sessions before the RFP release. What we're hoping is that during that time, we're going to have probably more organizations join us because, you know, everybody is kind of waiting for the release date. But you, I think, are the smarter ones to get here early, because we're going to have opportunities to really set the stage, to get ready, to, you know, think of questions that we want to ask, to think of and to look at the status of what you already have, so that when the time comes and we know the actual requirements, it's much easier to just, you know, like kind of compare that to what you already have and then identify what needs to happen, so that you're not, you know, starting from scratch when the RFP is released. So these 3 sessions, the idea is that we're going to do a lot of that pre-planning. Obviously, we don't have all the final information of the RFP. So there are things that we're not going to know until the release date. Once it's released, Anna and I have blocked already the time in our calendars to, you know, get ready, take all of that content, everything that's in the RFP, and break it down for you all. So that's why we're going to be prepping that week. And then we're rejoining the group at the beginning of November. We're going to have, you know, 6 sessions that are going to be like really, actually 5 sessions that are going to be really, really focused on the content. Again, we want to break it down for you. We want to go over each section individually. We are going to have resources for you to use. And then obviously the week of Thanksgiving doesn't really count because, you know, everybody is going to be probably out celebrating. School is out too. And I think the trust took that into account when they decided on the number of weeks that they were going to provide. They were going to be people to fill out the application. And then, you know, going to the home stretch, that last week, we're hoping really the 6 and the 14 are going to be mostly about asking questions, reviewing, you know, last minute drafts. The 14, as you all know, we have blocked 4 hours to just be available for you all to answer any last minute questions. Hopefully you won't really need that because you're going to be ready and submission has happened already. But, you know, we know that a lot of things maybe get out of control and you have to, you know, do things on that on the game day. And then the 19, we wanted to also provide the opportunity to, you know, regroup, to see how this content and how the work that we did together can, you know, support your organization beyond the grant. So hopefully, and we really believe that all of you have a good chance of getting the funding, but even if you didn't, we are hoping that this process that we're going to go through is going to be very, you know, good for your programs, and it's going to allow for opportunities to, you know, increase capacity. So that's kind of why we wanted to still regroup and make sure that you have some next steps in place, independently of whether the funding comes through or not. So I already said many of these things, but as I was pointing out, pre-planning is going to be us getting ready. We don't have a final say on DCF licenses, but we are, you know, still probably going to have to consider that. So today we're talking about eligibility requirements and partnerships, as we have said. Next session is going to be mostly about program sites. So how do you go about selecting your site? What type of relationships do you have to develop? What do you have to have in place with regards to the physical space? And then the last one is going to be about incorporating youth voice. We really see the direction that we see the trust going. They really want to involve youth's voice in the design of the program and in how programs are being run and so forth and so on, especially for the older kids. So we think putting something in place that can help you inform your application, inform your program, but also inform your application could be very, very valuable and could set you apart from other organizations. Then we go into grant release, and the first session that we are going to have after the grant is released is about creating powerful outlines. So we really want you to have a really good understanding of what the trust is asking for, what every section is, like sort of an overview, and then, you know, using the planning document that we're going to go over today, but maybe other resources that are going to complement it, ensure that you have like total clarity of how you're going to go about you know, strategizing and identifying how you're going to respond to each of those sections of the RFP. Then we go more into grant writing, which is still strategizing, but we basically are going to break down each of the following sessions in each of the sections that we know the trust usually breaks down the RFPs on. Now, I have to say, if they come out and there is like this new section that we have no idea about that we have to include, we'll obviously accommodate it and ensure that we cover it. But historically, they go over program activities, you know, basically how are you going to implement these as far as the activities you're going to have, the type of, you know, experiences that you're going to offer to kids. Then we're going to go into staffing, and this is intentional, the order in which we're doing this, because as you all decide how you're implementing your activities, that's going to determine who, how many, and what type of staff you need to hire, you need to train, you need to retain, and so forth and so on. And then that is going to inform your budget, because obviously the biggest piece of your budget is going to be your staff. So we're doing this in this order intentionally so that, you know, as we make decisions in one area and as you're clear on your vision for one area, you can fit into the following ones. Then we want to finish the application strong, obviously. So we want to make sure that there is clear alignment between your, you know, each area that we are responding to. Obviously, there are other areas in the RFP, such as like the partnerships and capacity building and all of those things. So we are going to integrate those into those sessions and probably spend some time like, you know, talking about those as well. Then we have session 9, which is going to be the grant submission, again, 4 hours of Q&A. And then the beyond submission one that I mentioned, as far as, you know, how we're integrating all the learnings for the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Mappy. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look at the grant strategy bootcamp link, and for those that aren't signed up, you can sign up here, and we have all the information on it here. This session was open to others, but future sessions aren't going to be open. And obviously all the resources are only going to be included for those that are in our bootcamp. And we have limited space to keep this as intimate as possible. So, but the next 3 weeks, we actually anticipate people coming more and more. So get your seat if you don't have one, and feel free to share it with others. We'd be happy to. And we do have a bit of a screening process as well for those who've done it already. Our intake process does include some screening questions to make sure this is a good fit for the organization before they kind of commit to being in the boot camp. So any questions about that? I figure we just stop and ask, you know, here's a good stopping point for questions. You guys have any questions? And then we're going to go start into the eligibility section. Questions? Nope. All righty. I'm seeing nods.
You were super clear, Anna.
Avi, yeah.
Okay. So we just wanted to give you a sense of the structure of the sessions that we're going to have. So we are planning that 45% of the time that we're going to spend together, half of the time we're going to spend actually giving you content. So telling you like, this is, you know, what this area is about. This is what you should be thinking of. These are the requirements, whatever it is that we have as guidelines around the theme that we're going through that session. And then we're going to have 45 minutes of live Q&A. So obviously that could vary if there is 1 week where we need to go over more stuff, or if we get a sense that people need more time for questions too. But that's kind of where we were, because we really want you all to get the value of having us both in the room, you know, able to ask questions live. So that we thought was an important piece of what we wanted to achieve.
Great.
And then you want to go over that? Yeah, so basically Anna is going to show us about the members only page, but basically that is the place where you're going to find all of the amazingness that we're creating for you. So she's going to walk us through it.
Yeah, so for those who already have their contracts, you should have gotten an email today giving you access to the sessions. The recordings will go here for all of them, as well as links to resources. And we have our huge resources section, which will be invaluable to you as you continue to do this process. So already we have our grant strategy planning template. We have a memorandum of agreement template for subcontractors, and we also have a partnership template as well, which we'll go into a little bit later. So I just want you to be aware that those sources are available to you, and this list would just continue to grow as the boot camp moves on.
And we're also adding those resources under each meeting. So once we post the recording, we're going to have the resources that we went over in that specific session, so that if that's an easier way for you to find it, you can find it there, or you can find it in the resource section.
Awesome. All righty. So to get us started, let's talk about eligibility for this Children's Trust funding. So all of you are here because youth development funding is coming up very soon. But we want to make sure for those who haven't applied before to the Children's Trust, or maybe just haven't done it in a while, because again, this is a 5-year funding cycle. So the last time this was out was 2017. They made significant changes to like their website and things like that. So I just want to make sure you're well aware of how to navigate the Children's Trust website. So I'm just going to do a quick demo and show you what it looks like. The first place you should start on the Children's Trust website, which is childrentrust.org, is grants. It's not obvious, but you have to actually click on this and it'll take you to this homepage. Raise your hand if you've ever been to this homepage. Yeah? Okay, cool. Angela, no. Okay, no worries. There's actually a little video on here that explains like their funding and process. We recommend, if you haven't, take a look at this already. And there's also, you can see the drop-down menu here where it goes through eligible applicants, right? So let's go through it really quick. Just want to make sure you're aware of the eligibility process. Government entities, for-profit or not-for-profit organizations, or faith-based organizations for providing services in Miami-Dade can apply. So you don't have to be a nonprofit in order for you to apply. You must be able to conduct business in the state of Florida. You must also apply during the funding cycle and agree to all the contractual requirements. I'm not going to go over all the legalese. Read it, make sure you understand and you're eligible is the bottom line. But those are the big things. Basically, don't be a public school, Miami-Dade County Public School. That's a conflict, so you cannot be a public school, things like that. So, because that's called supplantation of government funding, because this Children's Trust money is taxpayer dollars from property taxes. So in the county, so you cannot be a Miami-Dade County Public School or charter school for you to apply. Okay. And then the other things in the grant section, they do have general requirements just to get a sense of what, if you did get a contract from the Children's Trust, what it would look like. And things like being inclusive of with children with disabilities, data requirements, program and professional requirements. They do require all of your staff and things like that to go through and prove that they've had certain types of trainings, as well as fiscal soundness, right? So lots of things like having your audit that has been done by a certified accountant. They also recommend, because majority of the contracts are reimbursement-based contracts, that you have at least 2 months of cash flow for you to cover those costs and things like that. So these are important things to just read through on the website. Again, those are the legal requirements. And there's a number of fun things about cone of silence, all these other things. So again, just make sure you're aware of these. There are also FAQs on here. The place you're probably going to go the most is the grant opportunities section. The grant opportunities section looks like this. The RFP you're going to apply for is youth development. If you click on this, it's like a little drawer. So you have to click on it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see it. That's a thing I've noticed that some people don't realize, is that you can click on that drawer. And then right now, this is all the information we have available to us about the funding. There was already a networking session. I think many of you attended that in July, which have the slides and also different resources as well. This is a great place for you to look for partners. The network input form, highly recommend taking a look at that if you're looking for partners or subcontractors or all kinds of things. And then make sure you are registered for the bidders conference and application training, which is November 4th. So they'll go over all the details once it's released, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions there, as well as through their Q&A process. So any questions about this? How do you get in here? Anything like that? Just want to make sure you guys are well aware and can navigate this. Nope. All right, perfecto. Okay, so now we're gonna play a game. Eligible or not eligible. There is no try. You guys ready? You're sensing a theme, I'm guessing, huh? Okay, ready? Registered in California, been new to Florida. What do you think? Eligible or not eligible?
You can go like that or that, I guess.
Down? What am I getting? Down? Yeah, down. Okay.
Okay, good.
Miami-Dade County Public School
Down. That's
Down.
clear. Crystal clear.
does not have a current financial audit. Only implement services in Palm Beach County.
Give somebody a chance, Anna. Like-
They were already doing it. Registered on sunbiz.org to do business in the state of Florida.
Yes, good job.
Have a current audit. Not in Miami-Dade County Public School or charter school. Apply to implement in Miami-Dade. Yeah, okay, good. All right, you guys got it. Good job. 100%. Oh, funny. Oh, why is it stuck? There it goes. There it goes. As you can
Oh,
see,
that's the answer key. Okay.
that's the answer key. Yeah.
Okay, so as Anna mentioned before, and I don't know if you all have attended the webinar or will want to go back and review the video and the slides from the session that the trust had, but we wanted to just kind of summarize the key messages that we heard for you. So the main, and we wanted to summarize what we think are going to be the main changes and the key things that can set you apart from organizations that are being funded right now or from organizations that are applying. We really believe that the trust has paid a lot of attention to feedback. They have done, focus groups, and they really want to focus on these key themes that we are seeing. So the first one is they've talked before about the importance of having enrichment areas, especially for the older youth. So any high school what used to be YEN, which was the youth enrichment programs for older kids, there was emphasis on some enrichment areas, but now they are actually extending that to all of K through 12. And we are not sure how they are actually going to go about scoring this or identifying that a program has expertise. But what we do know is that you all may already have some things around enrichment that you're already doing. The idea will be for you to be able to really document and to really, include as part of your application your expertise on those enrichment areas that you are having your kids go through. So they have talked about having between 2 and 4 enrichment areas. They are also expecting these to be sort of in alignment with some academic success theme, and they want to have activities that are sort of like doing, so things that are experiential for kids. So this is something very important for you to note. In the planning tool, we are gonna go more into detail on the activities, but your program overall has to have at least 2 to 4 enrichment areas. They have a list of those. Again, we need to get to the actual RFP to see what the actual requirements will be, but this is just for you to sort of start thinking about. Then we also have social emotional wellness. That is something that the trust has also paid attention in the past, but they were very sort of flexible in terms of you can use a curriculum, you can have it integrated, and there wasn't a lot of guidance around what it meant or how you could gauge whether a provider was actually supporting social emotional wellness. Now we believe they're going to pay much more attention to it, not just for children, but for staff as well. So what is your organization doing to create an environment that is supportive of the social emotional development of children and staff? And they are going to be a testament to their emphasis on social emotional development is that they're going to actually be using the SELPQA, which is an observation tool that they had been using for the yen programs, but now they're gonna expand also to K through 5. And basically it's a tool that gets into the environment and whether it's supporting social emotional learning. We are going to give you, you know, the information that we have on the tool so that you can start also getting familiar with that. But that's also something important to know, because they actually are removing, I'm jumping to the last bullet point there, they're removing the individual level child outcomes for the most part. They are not going to be using, you know, the literacy and fitness outcomes for all kids like they were doing in the past, which is something that providers should be like really excited about. They are using the SELPQA to measure outcomes. We are not sure how they're going to do that. We're excited about them doing it, but we don't know how it's actually going to happen. So we have some ideas and we share those with you. And if they give more information in the RFP, of course, we'll also go over that.
Yes.
And then the only individual level outcomes that they're going to track is for kids that need the differentiated literacy instruction, which are only elementary age kids, only the ones that score, you know, low at the beginning of the year, and then they are going to be able to do DLI. And they are going to have to be post-tested. So those are the only kids that are going to be pre and post-tested. Again, if you want to go through the whole meeting recording and slides, they are available where Anna showed us. But these are the takeaways. So hopefully we can save you that time.
Perfect.
And as you know, this grant is very competitive. And we believe, we were having this conversation with Anna yesterday, we believe it's very competitive because probably a lot of organizations are going to be applying for this. However, it is also a big pool of money. We're talking about, like, they've said close to $60 million, which is, you know, a good amount of money. And we really believe that organizations that really get what the trust is trying to get in this through this RFP, and that have the structure and the program implementation and everything in place to make that happen, can totally stand out. So we believe that it's competitive, but we also believe that high quality programs from high quality organizations that submit a high quality application have a lot of chances of getting in. So yeah.
And I would
don't know
also
if
just
yeah.
jump in, Mappy, and say
Yep.
that I will say of all of I've been on the funding side for a lot of different agencies, including 2 children's trusts, not the one for Miami and the Alachua County. And the Children's Trust funding is one of the most transparent processes I've ever seen. And I will say very fair in its review process. And if you put together an application that is, you know, that you base off of the reviewer criteria, will score really high, like you have a really good chance of getting that funding, because they go through a pretty rigorous application. But as long as you kind of follow the details and make sure, and that's what our goal is to make sure that you guys are putting all the, you know, the right details together to make sure your story about your program is as clear as possible and is in alignment with the RFP, right? And to your own organizational mission, right? So I will say it's one of the fairest processes I've ever seen in across different funders, and it's very transparent as to like why you would have scored poorly in a section, for instance, I would say. All right, so good fit or not fit, let's take a look. Because obviously big fan of games. All right, this is a good question again, just like we did for eligibility. Are these a good fit? What do you think? Incorporates positive youth development practices in a safe environment. Oh, yep, okay. Doesn't have the resources in place for a reimbursement-based contract. Yvonne is very, very clearly saying he knows. Yes, if you don't have the resources in place for a reimbursement-based contract, probably not a good idea for you. Offers a structured schedule of activities with programming multiple times per week. Good fit, Yvonne? I was like, wow, Yvonne. Okay, is a drop-in program without any consistent schedule. Bad, okay. Provide services to children, youth in under-resourced populations or communities, as well as youth with disabilities in an inclusive environment. Yep. Strong track record of success. has the capacity to implement a contract that is reimbursement based, including staffing, budget, and fiscal practices. Yes, so we cannot encourage that enough. Training a new generation of Jedis with a rigorous curriculum and positive youth development practices. Neutral, all of you guys. What?
Support the Jedi. Okay.
Support the Jedi. They're like extinct. Alrighty, so now that we've had a chance to go over eligibility and whether or not this would be a good fit, we're going to jump into partnerships. So one of the things that you can do now, right, is start thinking about what partnerships you're going to include in your application. The Children's Trust tends to have a section which is called Partners and Service Linkage, and it'll be an opportunity for you to show how your organization and this program, and specifically how you're working with the community at large, and what partners are you bringing in to have this very holistic view of your program and the support services that you're leveraging as well, right? So there's two types of partners that you can have in your application. Those are your paid partners, such as subcontractors, right? And then there's in-kind partners that you might have, say, for recruitment support, or those that are providing you free services as well. We definitely recommend you start thinking of those partners and getting those MOAs or memorandums of agreements early and signed so that they can get into your application, because you'll upload them as part of your application and you'll have to describe what your relationship is. We do have templates for both of those things, and those I'll just show you what it looks like really quick for those who want to be a subcontractor. So an MOA for you and your subcontractor as well, and put what your organization will do, what the subcontractor will do, etc. Get those signed. You'll have an MOA ready for your application. Another thing you can use is our partnership template. Again, because there's two different types, not just paid partners, but you want to have partners in your application, right? And so here's like basically a little document and template we've created that shows you why you want to partner with XYZ agency. If you are applying for the funding directly, you can, say, you're seeking support for, maybe you need a new site, maybe you want a community partner, maybe you want a subcontractor for enrichment services. If you want to be subcontracted into somebody else's application, then you'll say, I'm seeking a lead agency who's applying for the funding, and I'm interested in providing these services, such as your curriculum, such as specialized enrichment services, right? So have it out there. Just be like, this is exactly what I'm asking you for. Have it in your template. Put a little bit about your org, what you're doing, impact to date, how to contact you. That's just a little template to help you get started on the partnerships. So any questions about partners? Again, we definitely recommend you start doing those now. Letters of support, we're gonna go over sites next week, but your letters of support and all the information that you can provide that shows really holistically what impact you're making in the community and how you're leveraging not only the staffing of your program and the volunteers for your program, but all the other community agencies, say, around you, or leveraging other resources. They care a lot about leverage. So if you can even include a number of in-kind services, those would make it really strong applications. And then services that are obviously complementary to your program as well. So say if you're an art program and you have a lot of partners that are other art programs, it's not as strong of a partner. But if you're saying, hey, I'm a art program, we have this program, say like really like a memorandum of agreement with the Frost Museum, and they in-kind services to us and they come to our site, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's a strong partnership that you can really describe what they're doing for you and vice versa, how it complements your existing program. I would just say like this is kind of gold partnership section. People, I feel like they kind of wait for the last minute to do this, but you definitely want to have documents to show how strong your partnership is with a memorandum of agreement. And you definitely, obviously, if you're a subcontractor, you're going to put the prices and things like that as well. But keep both of these in mind. You should start planning for that today, because once this is due, it just gets crazy. Yeah. Any questions about partners?
I just wanted to add, Anna, we are also including 2 resources that we thought could be helpful in identifying partners. One is a link to a map that the Children's Trust has, where you can see the existing programs right now that the trust is funding. And we were thinking it would be great for you to explore parenting programs, neighborhood and community, the FNSP, family and neighborhood support programs, any other programs that the trust is funding that are around your area, your geographic area, because, you know, creating partnerships with those organizations could be like really beneficial. And then, you know, as you're thinking about partnerships, is also around, oh, and then the other resource that we want to post for you is the link to the networking spreadsheet that the trust, that everybody that attended the networking session filled out, because that not only includes organizations that we're planning to apply as lead agencies, but also other organizations or, you know, consultants or contractors that wanted to offer their services. So if there are areas where you feel you will benefit from having one of those type of partnerships, this is a good starting point for you as well. So we're making those two available. And then the planning document you'll see has some questions for you to think about as you're thinking about partners, which we'll go over in a minute.
Another question, since in our school we have a lot of kids with special need, can a speech occupational agency, can it be partner, kind of be a partner of ours, or no?
You can have as many partners as you like. It's just,
Okay, that will count as if
yeah, I would
can
just
do the
define it
service.
however you want. So if you're paying them, then they're a paid partner. If it's an in-kind service, then it's an in-kind. But I would use the templates to like really explain what that partnership looks like,
Okay.
right? And just, you know, what you definitely want some sort of agreement in place, some sort of paperwork to show how you're partnering, right?
Because
Or
sometimes they come, I mean, most of the kids that they see here, they have insurance
Mhm.
and that will cover for the service. But sometimes if they don't have insurance, sometimes they do come here for free and you know, and see them. So, I mean, they've been doing it for years. So I don't know if that will be.
yeah, no, you should definitely start with your
amazing. Yeah.
existing partners, because that
Okay.
shows like how much work you've already done, right? Like
Yep.
you'll see the planning document, like start with the ones you already have instead of building new partners. It just helps to formalize those if you don't already have like a paperwork in place that just says, for yours, it sounds like all you're going to need is what's called like a letter of support, right? Be
Okay.
like, hey, this agency comes and provides services to our kids, et cetera, et cetera. We've been partnering with them for 10 years, however it is. That actually really shows the work you've already been doing. Like I love when I review applications, I love seeing like longevity in partnerships as well.
Mhm.
Those are always like really strong because it shows me that you've consistently done that work and you've been doing it for a long time and working really well together.
Perfect.
I have a question, and sorry, I had to go off camera because I'm multitasking by force. But I have a question about the partnerships and sort of from a strategic standpoint. So for us, we do two things. So direct services to the kids and training of staff. So we can train, we already have some MOUs in place where we're training staff in other agencies. But for us, for this particular grant, do we write the grant to fund what it would cost us to give those agencies the training for free? In other words, we'll pay for it because the grant will give us the money to continue providing that training. Or do we ask them to write us into the grant, knowing that that's a risk because if they don't get funded, we're not part of it. And can we do both simultaneously?
That's the way that I will do it, Virginia. I will have them include you as a subcontractor because you're right. Like independently of whether you are putting the money here or there, they may not get it. And then if they don't get it, like there is no justification for you to have that line item in yours either. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I think it makes sense for you to, you know, just identify the organizations that you would like to subcontract with and then have them add you in there.
but wait, going back to what you just said, if they don't get it, there's no justification for my line item, but there is that if they don't get a Children's Trust grant, we would cover it because we would have funding from the Children's Trust.
Well, this funding is direct supports for after school and summer camps provided by your agency, right?
Ah,
So
okay.
That is why, because like if it was a different type of RFP where
Yeah.
they were asking for professional development, then it totally makes sense.
Now
Got
there
What
is
they're
a line
funding
item.
is for the kids, yeah.
Right. There is a line item for program and professional development, which is for your staff or
Yeah.
those that you're including in that training. So you could say, oh, we need to train our staff or our partners on our model, and we have a cost of this, and include it in the cost of your program to implement, which is a line, a
This is-
special line.
This is going to be such a tricky application for us because, for example, with the OYC,
Mhm.
what we're doing right now with Overtown Youth Center, we are training their staff to implement our program. So it is direct services. Their staff essentially works for us, right? Because we oversee them, they answer to us when they're working with girls,
Mhm.
our program content. So it is direct services in that sense.
In that case, I see them as a subcontractor for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
What I will say is you have a site or you have a number of kids on their site, and there are kids that you are serving through
right,
them.
right,
sense?
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I would say that too. You're subcontracting that site out to them.
It's more like that than
Yeah.
it is the other way, because we don't just train staff if they're not serving girls.
Yeah.
And then we enroll the girls that they're serving. So it is direct services. It's a true partnership where it's their staff, we train, it's a collab, a real collaboration.
I think what's going to be very challenging there, and we can spend more time maybe like you and
Yeah,
Anna in your
yeah,
individual sessions, but I think what's going to be tricky there is ensuring that there is not like supplantation, right? So that if the trust was to look at both applications, they don't see the same kids being accounted for in both.
Yeah,
Because
Correct.
then
Yeah.
that wouldn't make sense. So
Yeah.
as long as you can be very clear on where you are the head of the chain and where
Yeah.
Overtown Youth Center is, you should be okay. But I think that needs to
Okay.
be explicitly stated in both applications.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can run the risk of them being like, oh, but wait, they're talking about serving the same people.
Right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
We can talk about it. I have some ideas.
Yeah. Thanks.
No problem. Good questions.
you.
Any
That's
other
a very good
questions
question.
about partners? So another resource you might not have thought of also for partners is Give Miami Day. So the Give Miami Day website has a number of nonprofit orgs that are across Miami-Dade. So if you're looking for partners in a certain area, so maybe you see a gap in your partnership table when you start looking at it holistically, go take a look at Give Miami Day, search for a certain topic, and I bet you'll find a number of partners through there. So again, it just takes planning on your part and starting to think through what those look like. Questions? All right. Mapi?
We're ready. We're diving in. Okay. So I really, we really believe that this template that we're going to share with you is worth gold, and that it's going to really set you on the right track. So I will block time this week in my calendar to start filling it out, to get familiar with it, to if you have questions about it, ask them, have them all ready for next session. Because if you start doing this right, I think that's going to help you take the most advantage of our sessions together, and also start structuring your grant, which is why you all are here. So basically what we are hoping this document is going to help you do is two things. Number one is do a little bit of project management. Like maybe some of you are amazing at project management and use really, specialized tools, but my experience working with different organizations is that that's not always the case. Sometimes planning just happens kind of, informally. Maybe one person has one understanding of the process, whereas somebody else has another understanding. So having one central place where you can actually track how you're going to go about this, we think will be very, very valuable. Now, you could take what's here and put it on Asana if you're using Asana, Monday, whatever the case may be, but just we encourage you to have a plan that can help you get clear on what do you need to do by when, so that you are not the week of December 14 running, you know, like a chicken without a head. Trying to get everything together, okay? Or trying to get an approval from somebody or anything like that. Okay.
Got it.
So basically the beginning, yes.
Oh, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, we think it's going to take 100 hours for you to do this application. And most of those are planning.
Mhm.
Like 10 hours to actually write, maybe. But most of it is as you'll see, like as we continue on, it's going to be a lot of decision making, and it's very similar to almost strategic planning.
Which is why we called it Grant Strategy Bootcamp and not Grant Writing Bootcamp. We started with writing, but really we're not together to write. Like writing can happen pretty easily if you have all of what you need to write the paragraph. And in fact, the trust doesn't give you a lot of space for writing. So you have to be like very, very effective at what you're putting there. Okay, so I'm sorry, Anna, go back up. Okay. So the beginning is very simple. We want you to identify, especially for those of you that are part of big organizations, who is gonna do what. So who is the lead person for this grant? We're expecting that person to be joining all of our meetings, to be like really aware and knowledgeable of all the pieces that are moving. So you need to have a project manager, right, for this project. Then who will be involved in planning? So who do you need to brainstorm with? Talk with? Are you bringing your program director? Are you talking to the staff about some things? Like who is there, like one staff that can be really good at helping you plan these things? Identify the people that you're gonna have to be working with. Who will be involved in decision making? Again, for small organizations, it may be the same people. You may have the same person for all of these fields, but in bigger organizations, maybe you have a director that needs to give their approval for something. Maybe you have the finance person that needs to look at the budget. Maybe you have, you know, so who are the key people for decision making? And then who will write and submit the application? This is also very important because you can have maybe one Word document where you're writing the application, but then somebody else it's copying and pasting when the time comes to actually submit it in the system. So, and that's important also because you need to open the account in Trust Central, which we'll mention in a minute. But basically just being clear on who is doing what, okay? And maybe you have other ideas of other people that need to be involved. So, I mean, we're sharing this as a PDF that you're gonna be able to fill out. But if you wanted to, you know, add more columns to it or whatever, we can always have conversations and we can always, you know, adjust it for you. So what and by when? Basically, what we did was we put in here all of the different tasks that we think you should be doing in a specific period of time. And then you need to identify who in your organization is going to be responsible for each of those tasks and by when, okay? And we included the key days that we know about. So as we are going through pre-planning, we're expecting that you're gonna identify your staff, that you're gonna fill out the key dates in here, that you're gonna block time in your calendars. Like we cannot just assume that because we said something is gonna be done by this date. If you don't have time allocated for it, if you haven't looked at calendars and so forth, that can be tricky. Understanding eligibility requirements, we already went about that. Filling out the program design and implementation section of this document, which we'll go over. Make decisions, identify partners. There may be other tasks that you want to do before the RFP is released. So we left some space for that. If it's not enough, again, we can talk and we can always adjust this for you. So again, you're identifying a staff and date. Then we mark the RFP release because we really think that anything that you can get done, that you already know, that you already have, that you can get done before the release, the better, right? We have time. We don't have to rush it. Then once the RFP is released, you need to review the RFP. We are gonna break it down for you. We're gonna give it to you in very plain and specific terms, but it's always good for you to, you know, you and everybody involved in the grant to just take a look, make sure that you're familiar, make sure that you understand what the ask is. That's also gonna help us because if there is something that you know, you identified in a section that maybe we didn't address during our time together, it's always good for you to bring it to our attention and to try to go over it. As Anna was mentioning, you need to register for the Peters Conference. It's very important to go to that because they present basically an overview of the RFP, but they also go over the functionality of Trust Central. Trust Central is the software that you're using to apply for the grant. And you want to become familiar with it. You want to play with it a little bit so that when the time comes, you are not like, oh my gosh, I don't have a user, or I don't know how to, click here, or whatever the case may be. Questions that you want to bring into the bidders conference, and also maybe you want to have like one document where you're like just recording all of your questions that you want to ask of the trust directly. You can also ask us, like we are here to support you throughout the whole process, obviously. And then I talked about creating the Trust Central account. Then the bidders conference happens. We again, throughout the process, you need to be identifying questions, schedule planning decision-making meetings for each area of so if we have the budget session on Tuesday, what we would recommend is that you have a follow-up session internally, maybe that same week, just to go over whatever you have, whatever tool you've used, whatever decisions you need to make, so that, it's timely with the content that we're, giving you. And then we can address any questions in the following session. We also, I didn't add this, and we talked about it, Anna, but one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that you, as you're filling this out, it will be important for you to identify when do you think you want to have your one-on-one sessions with Anna or me, because you want to obviously take the most advantage of that time that we have one-on-one. Our recommendation is to do it closer to having a final draft, so that, anything that is kind of like important for you to get it in the stronger way possible, we can go over, but it's really up to you. We're here, just make sure that you calendar that with time, because calendars filled out, and we just want to make sure that we are here when you need us. So we have the different sections, different drafts for the different sections. Then what we are recommending, and I put those dates in there because I think it's a strong recommendation, is that you have a final draft done by the beginning of December. Then you have a week for internal review. Part of your internal review could be the meeting with us. So maybe when you have a final draft, you have the meeting with us, then your internal review. We could come to your internal review, we could log in, and if you have, a few people in the room, there is no problem with that. We can always do that. And then there is the submission, the question submission deadline for the trust, which is December 8th. By that point, I don't think there are going to be many pressing questions. Then again, I left some blank rows in case that you wanted to add more tasks that you need to get completed. Grant submission, we really will encourage you to schedule or to plan to submit the grant before the due date. You don't want to be filling out the grant that day at 2 p.m. and then have a technical issues, then, your computer broke, your file, whatever it is, stuff happens, just like it did today with our link to this meeting. So just make sure that you plan accordingly. And what we would recommend is to schedule to actually hit submit at least a couple of days before. And then we could use the 4 hours on the 14th to just celebrate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Definitely. 100%. I cannot tell you. And every grant writer in the world tells you this, but this is not a grant you want to mess with. I do not submit it on the due date. Please do not.
And I just thought of this, and well, okay, we'll talk about it. But yeah, if I would say, if you all feel that maybe the 4 hours that you have with us make more sense,
Earlier, yeah.
And we have majority that feels that way, we will be happy to modify. I just thought of this, but it does make more sense, because we don't want to have people, if everybody agrees that they want to try to go for it before, we could move our 4-hour session to prior to the due date. So
when will we know the results?
We don't have those.
Ooh.
Once the RFP is
Okay.
released, they'll give you a calendar of the dates of expected awards. It's going to probably take a couple of months of review. So if it's,
yeah, what I will say is they will probably take this to the either March or April board meeting. So that means that they have to have recommendations ready to go mid-February or something like that, maybe March. But yeah, it cannot go beyond April because they have to give people time for the contracting to start.
Correct. Because the contracts would start August 2023. And essentially there's a number of months of contract negotiation and all this final paperwork so that you could be ready for after school in the new school year.
Yeah.
So probably like March.
Okay. So any questions about the project management piece of this template? Okay. So then we go into the program design and implementation. Think of this as this is where we are. This is the status of our program as it is today. So the idea is not for you to go in, trying to see what you're going to apply for the trust for or what you are going to add. What we want is for you to be able to document, this is what I'm offering today. So that when we know the actual requirements, we can have, a very easy way to see where there is alignment, where there is not, and so forth and so on. So program description, as we were saying, activities is obviously a very important piece for the trust. So we just added some, questions that can help you start thinking about what type of information you want to put in here. So what are you currently doing? Are you doing homework help? Are you doing tutoring? Are you doing arts? Whatever it is that you're doing. How often are you delivering those activities? Each activity, is it like an hour 3 times a week? Is it half an hour, just once a week? Like whatever the case may be. Are all the kids that you work with participating in all activities, or do you let them choose between arts and crafts and gymnastics or whatever the case may be, right? And are the activities like throughout the year, or do you have something for, do you change activities every couple of months? So again, it's whatever you're doing, just make sure that you have it documented here. Are you using a specific curriculum? Do you have specific materials that you use? And do you have a schedule? If you have a schedule, like add it now so that when the time comes, it's a matter of either modifying it. The trust is going to ask you for a sample schedule. So it's always good to start thinking about what your schedule looks like. We left room for like 3 different types of activities. Again, we can always modify this template. But the idea was just to get you thinking of the type of information that you want to include in there.
And for those that have existing children's trust contracts, like they are not going to let you copy and paste. So you're going to have to make significant changes to the activities. So just think about that now, like what they look like now, and then start when the RFP is out, you're going to have to redesign them, which is why we spent a lot of time on, we'll have lots of time on the activities, especially embedding enrichment into it, which is going to be an interesting, I mean, lots of programs already do it, but laying it out clearly and intentionally and tying it to SEL and a social emotional is going to be the tricky part. And so we're just going to make sure that that like is a key feature of the content we do and we plan for it. But just keep in mind that if you do have existing trust contracts, those activities are going to have to change.
Okay, then we go into the population to be served. So again, who are you serving right now? I will definitely, if you collect any type of demographics for your participants, pull those out, get a sense of like what percentage of participants are low income, if you have any type of income proxy or data that you collect, what percentage are girls or boys, or do you serve populations, special populations such as foster care kids or children with special needs. If you serve children with special needs, what special needs do you usually see in your population? So just painting a picture of the participants that you serve. Also, obviously, your neighborhood. If you have, again, participants with special needs, I think beyond what special needs they have, what do you do in your program to support those participants? That's going to be a key thing that is also going to set you apart. Because, everybody can say that they serve children with special needs. Very few organizations can really, explain or present how they are actually meet those kids, they meet the needs of those kids. Describe your recruitment process. For recruitment, it can be tied to partnerships because sometimes you need to develop partnerships to make sure that you can recruit. So that, how long do your participants usually stay in the program? We don't really know how the trust is going to measure like attendance metrics in the future, but we do know that they care about whether kids are staying in your program, whether you're able to maintain them for a period of time. So how long do they usually stay? What strategies do you use to, encourage them to stay? And then how do you respond to the individual needs of youth, independently of whether they have special needs or not? We know that every youth have talent, skills, needs. So what do you have in place in your program? And again, maybe you don't have anything right now. Maybe your answer to that is, I don't know, but that's great, because now you know that part of what we need to do together is figure out the how and the what you're going to do moving forward.
Mhm.
Then we have service sites and locations. Where are you planning? Like, do you have one site? Do you have 3 sites? Do you have kids in different sites? Do you have relationships with schools? Maybe that could potentially become a site. That would be something good to, just think about now. Do you sites have DCF licenses? Again, I am not completely sure how the DCF licensing requirement is going to play out this time around, but that has been something important in the past. So it will be good to get a sense of where you're at with that. Are you paying rent? Do you own the place where you're at? Is it an in-kind thing? So just, those details that it's important for you to, again, just have in one place. You probably already know the answer to all of these.
Yeah.
We're just hoping that this
Oh,
will help you.
One thing that you should just keep in mind for sites, if you own the property, those are not reimbursable expenses. So those are not allowed in the budget guidelines. So just keep that in mind. If you do own your site and pay a mortgage, for instance, they do not allow you. That's in the past, that has not been allowable expense. Just keep that in mind for budget purposes.
And then we already went a lot about partners or linkages. I will just say, we added questions about, do you have partnerships that help you recruit, that help you disseminate the information, existing subcontractors agreements, and so forth. And then the last section is participant outcomes. As we said, I really don't think that the trust, like from what they said, it seems like they're moving away from collecting participant outcomes. However, if let's say you have a very specific curriculum that you're using, and that includes a pre-test and a post-test, by all means, like add it here so that because that could strengthen your application if you have it. Or if you have this music teacher that comes in and does an assessment of the kid, and then they test them every so often, that too. Or if let's say you use the student grades to see their progress while they are receiving tutoring, whatever data you're already using to inform the supports and the services that specific kids get, plug them in here so that, again, when the time comes to build the application, we can use that to, strengthen and support what you're saying. And then staffing, obviously, again, where are you at right now? What ratios do you use? What type of supervision your staff receive? How do you go about recruiting people? How do you go about retention? I think this is going to be also a very important one, because what we are seeing across the board is that it's been very difficult to maintain staff. So if you happen to be an organization that has a culture that has allowed for staff to maybe be retained, or that, like you use these strategies that you have seen work, just dump it in there, put it in there so that we can, start getting a sense of what the current status is with staffing. And then budget, like really, this will be more about like, do you actually have a current budget that you use? If so, maybe it would be good to link it here just so that you can have like that quick access to what you need. And then if you have a unit cost per child, I think it's a good exercise to get a sense of what that is right now, because even though the trust doesn't do unit cost reimbursement, they do calculate unit in the past. They have calculated unit cost to see what makes sense as far as funding. So that's a good data point to have.
We can give you resources on how they've calculated it in the past. So if you want to make a little calculator,
we can provide
help
that.
you guys.
And then continuous learning and quality supports, like what do you already do in your organization to support continuous quality improvement? What type of practices do you have do you collect surveys from your participants? Do you observe how your staff is functioning? What type of things do you have in place to support capacity building? And then organizational capacity, this usually is scored much higher for new providers than for existing trust providers. So if you're new especially, make sure that you have a list of what other funding you're getting, where are you getting it from, how long have you been getting it, did you get any awards from what you're doing, what type of budgets have you managed with other funders, like just get a good sense of where you're at with regards to the funding and the organizational capacity that you currently have. Any questions? Reactions? Yeah.
Questions? Again, this is in the templates and resources section. This is called the grant strategy planning template. Again, we put a lot of thought into it because, as you can imagine, lots of planning will go into it and help you get ready for this application. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question going back to the very beginning?
Sure.
Just so I can have real clarity, because I'm still not super clear on the webinar takeaways. I'm going very back to the beginning of our meeting today.
Okay.
So the SEL part for
Yeah.
kids and staff. So we do that, right? Do they fund, because I know they're youth development. So are they actually funding programs that develop SEL in the staff that serve youth? Is that a line item?
Not in this RFP.
Okay.
Yeah, not
We
in this.
did have an RFP that was meant to do that, which was the capacity building one that was awarded maybe like 6-9 months ago, Anna.
Yes.
We don't know the status of that, but the idea is that was gonna provide supports for organizations to support the social emotional wellness of their
Well,
staff.
I believe YWCA was awarded the contract for it, for exactly that, capacity building supports for SEL and racial equity, I think is what happened.
That is
Yeah.
my sense as well, even though I'm brand new here at the YWCA.
Hello, Jose.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome. Now, that doesn't mean that they will only have that capacity building there, right? Because I honestly, personally, I think that social emotional development is one of those areas where we are just failing overall, like, as a community. So, so I think that I think that the trust will still be open to, other programs providing those supports in-house. Like, it's not like they're gonna say, oh, you can only get them from me, right? So I think that you can still have that as part of your like the nature of your organization,
Right.
and something that you do and get it funded.
Yeah, especially since this is requiring so much SEL, right? Like all of these programs are going to be required to.
Yeah,
So
like
I
we
think-
spend a lot of money and resources and time
Yeah.
training every single person in our staff, in our organization on SEL.
So you
And-
can totally get that funded under that. That
Okay.
would be under your program budget. Yeah.
Got it.
Training
Okay.
your own staff who is implementing programs is
Yeah.
100% allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But if you're training other people's staff, then
No,
that's
I
a
got you.
gray
Yeah,
area.
Yeah.
But 100% staff training is a big part of having high quality staff is a big part of the application, and explaining all that good details is a big part.
Okay.
Any other
Any
questions?
Yeah. Mhm.
Nope. Okay. Well, this was our Q&A section. So
Maybe Jose needs to introduce himself because he wasn't here at the beginning, so we can learn.
Sure thing. Oh, my video's not even on. Hello, everybody. I'm Jose Filpo. I'm brand new Vice President of Community Programs at the YWCA.
Welcome.
welcome.
And the question at the beginning was, what impact did after school or summer programs had on you personally?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would say I'd be a totally different person in terms of the opportunities I was able to have I'm a New Yorker, and there was a little program that found me in the projects in the Bronx and gave me educational opportunities that have literally transformed who I became, and that cycle continues in my family.
That's great.
And before this, I was at FIU, and before that, I was at Breakthrough Miami, which is doing that very same thing. So there's always been that education thread through what I do.
Awesome.
Nice to meet everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Welcome. Are there any other questions? So again, the format of this is basically all the questions you want after. If not, we have a happy survey because, I like to collect data. So we are focused on continuous improvement. We'd love it if you could sign in and also fill out our survey. So I'm going to drop it in the chat so everybody has access to it. But yeah, and if you want us to go back to anything, this is your time. Again, the intent is that we have these 90-minute sessions every week to give you content and also have you ask questions, because honestly, that's kind of as you can see, like the more content you see, the more questions pop up. So that's kind of why we have all of this. So feel free if you want us to go back to any sections, or let us know. If not, feel free to fill out the survey. We'd be happy to get your feedback. And again, this is our first session. And so we're building this out for you all in organizations like you. So if you want us to make changes, we're open to feedback to make changes.
And just to reiterate what we said at the beginning, this session, we intentionally open it up like to, everybody, just to make sure that, to give people also an opportunity to get a better sense of what we have envisioned with this. But this is the only session that's going to do that. From now on, you have to have a signed contract with us to continue attending the live sessions. They are going to be recorded and are going to be available to you in the members only page, which you receive a login to once you have signed your contract. And then you're gonna find there like all of the stuff that we went through today. So I will highly encourage you to download the grant strategy planning template and start working on that. And then you'll have the video for this session and probably a PDF of the slides too, so that you have access to those in case that there was anything there that you want to have that way.
Great. Anybody else have any questions for us? Who's excited? Has this got you pumped up? Oh my God, I wasn't sure what I was gonna get on after.
Excited, but also a little nauseous.
But if we can make a trust grant submission process exciting, like that, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I'm really happy with that. Yeah.
Also, if you want a different fandom for the next themed content, please let me know. Obviously, big Star Wars fan, but if you guys have other fandoms, I have always wanted. If anybody watched Cobra Kai, does anyone know what Cobra Kai is? No, on Netflix. No, okay.
Well, Anna, nobody watches that.
The Karate Kid. Yeah. Anyway, all I can tell you is it's a terrible example of youth development practices, and I've always wanted to make a session based off of what not to do. For example, they put kids in a cement mixer as like a bonding experience.
Oh my God.
Correct. Anyway, it's a funny, silly show. It's on Netflix if anybody wants to take a look.
Okay.
Anyway, all right, guys, we're done. If you haven't had a chance, fill out the form. For those that joined us as kind of like, just checking us out, we hope you will see you next week. For those who are already signed up, we will be talking about program sites next week and DCF licenses. So same time on Tuesday, you should have gotten registered for all of the October sessions. We did all the links for the month together. The November sessions, I will send also a link for those. It's just that because the RFP will be released, we just didn't want to like tie down the timings exactly. But all the sessions typically are on Tuesday at 11. So Tuesdays at 11 minus Thanksgiving.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Everyone have a great day.